Okay, this is a great turnout. Looking forward to hearing Brian today. How many of you enjoyed Gary Pinkel last week? I thought Gary did a great job. And Brian, Gary referenced you. Pinkel did, yeah, because I was back then he was coaching. Obviously, you guys were in the yeah. That's exactly right. So I thought Gary did a great job. Remember, next week we got Tyler Wilson and Casey Dick. I think both of them will have two different perspectives of Bobby Petrino. And listen, it's not bad. We won't. I think they were a little concerned about that. That one said, "Well, what if we have two different takes on Bobby Petrino?" Remember, Casey Dick had the last year. He was part of the transition, so it was probably a bit tougher on Casey. But I think it will be very compelling, very intriguing. So let's show up and support them next week. And we appreciate you guys being here today. Gary, would you come up, Underwood, and lead us in a word of prayer, please?
I really have nothing to say about Saturday, so I'm not going to say anything about Saturday. But I do want to mention that we want to pay our respects as a club to some losses that the sports world has experienced the last few days. Obviously, Arnold Palmer just passed away. Jose Fernandez from the Miami Marlins lost in a boat accident over the weekend. And then here in Arkansas, high school player for Springdale High was killed in a car wreck. And we want to reach out to the Williams family and pay our respects and just ask the Lord to be with them. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the day and the opportunities that you give us to serve you every day. Lord, today especially we just want to reach out to the family of Kyler Williams, ask you to be with them and hold them in your hand. Give them strength through this time. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thanks, Gary. Got Tommy, the phone police guy over there. Tommy, I just heard a phone go off, so Tommy's going to come find you if you don't turn your phone off now, or at least mute it. Remember, if you've got a friend who can't be here, or a coworker, family member wants to hear, they can go to lrtouchdown.com, log on, and they can hear Brian's entire talk today. So same thing. If you're driving around and you're in your car, you can listen to 103.7 of the Buzz, but make sure you mute your phone so we don't hear that throughout the meeting. Do want to recognize a few folks that are here today. I don't see him. Is the keeper of Tusk here today? Where is he at? Is Keith Stokes here today? This is the guy who takes care of Tusk every day, every year. Keith Stokes, everybody. He's with the office of Senator Tom Cotton. Brian, he actually handles a wild razorback every day and does a great job and feeds it grapes and apples and pets it and all kind of things. So there might be a relation with me and Tusk, Jeff Long always says. Also wanted to mention one current Channel 7 employee and one former, Scott Inman from KATV, now with Gen Wealth. Give it up for Scott, just stepped away from the TV business. And another guy who is so passionate about the weather, he happened to go to Oklahoma. He's from Arkansas, so he was thrilled to hear that Brian was coming to speak today. Todd Jacobian, where's Todd? Where's Todd at? Stand up, Todd. He's actually, Brian, is getting his son out of school to get here to get his picture made with you. So he has to go to the front of the line. Now, his hair is a little bit different. He has the nicest hair in television. Todd does. I think if he had his way, he would have hair like you, Brian, actually. Also, too, I want to mention two things about War Memorial. First, I know where Bill Ingram is. Where's Bill at? Where's Bill? Bill, stand up. Bill has the Hawks program, and all 5 of Bill's players have committed to play for the Razorbacks next year. Let's give him a round of applause. So he's going to take all 5 guys. They'll be at the stadium this Saturday for the Razorback game. So you'll have a chance to maybe shake their hands. And also they'll be doing an exhibition practice over at War Memorial Fitness Center where their court is. So that's the future of the Razorbacks right there. Bill, glad to have you here today. Also, I want to recognize a young woman. You know, it's not easy to work anywhere, Brian, for more than, a year, 5 years, 10 years. So when you've hit 46 years at the same place, and worked under multiple administrations and seen multiple head coaches come through. We have a young lady here. I think the first age may be an 8. It is either the first or the second. I don't want to get her mad at me. But we have a lady here that's worked at War Memorial Stadium for 46 years. And I'll just say that 8 is for 80. And I want us to give her a great welcome. Nancy Tolan, please stand. Nancy Tolan, everybody. She's worked under Rex Howard Pierce, Charlie Staggs, Harold Stillman, and now Jerry Cohen. So, Nancy, great to have you. She's seen a lot of different Razorback coaches and a lot of games played at War Memorial, so thank you for being here. Also wanted to mention the passing of Mike Bender. Coach Bender coached at Arkansas. Brian, I don't know if you know him or not. He was the guy, if you've seen the movie Greater about Brandon Burlsworth, he was the guy depicted in there. He was the guy who coached Brandon up and made him the great All-American. But his son Brent wanted to say, could you share that with him, that my dad had passed away, and he was a great coach and a great guy. Oh, yeah, I do mean that. Thank you for saying that. And if you hadn't heard Larry Lacewell, you know Larry, don't you? Yeah. Larry had a stroke last week and is doing better. Slow recovery. I think they're flying him to Chicago. But he's having, as you know, difficulties from stroke-related issues, and so we want to pray for him, too. Larry is such a great and dynamic guy. I do want to thank, we got a full house today, and we couldn't do this without our sponsor. And I hope you pay attention to these expensive banners we have to buy every year with our logos of our sponsors on it. Every time we add a sponsor, these things, listen, I'm not such a dummy. We don't just get regular old white vinyl things. We buy these high-dollar things that we have to do every year, but we want to present our sponsors in a great way. And I want to recognize our sponsors real quick. Twin City Limo, owned by Greg Hatcher and Dale Bennett. Popeye drove today. Thank you, Twin City Limousine. CJRW, Mark Raines, Dan Sawyer, Darren Gray, thank you so much for your help with the Cliff Harris Award. CJRW, one of the oldest and largest media firms, PR firms in the state. LRCVB, Gretchen Hall, David Russell, we're proud to be the Little Rock Touchdown Club. I was telling Brian a little bit about our club and how dynamic we've been in just 13 years, so we're proud to be based here in Little Rock. 103.7 The Buzz, thanks Steve Johnson and our management for believing in us, and Epic for sponsoring every week so our speakers can be heard. It's amazing how many people drive around and listen to the speaker that can't get here, so thanks to 103.7 The Buzz. War Memorial Stadium, obviously this week we need to get out and support the Razorbacks. Now, Jerry, there's still tickets available, right? Kickoff is at an early 11 o'clock. Are there any, what's that? Have brunch there. Are any tailgating spots still there, or you still got a few? Got a few. 3, says Nancy. So how many were at the UAPB Jacksonville State game this weekend? About 14,000. Well, thank you so much for being one of our sponsors, and hope we have a great weekend. It should be great weather there for sure. So if you hadn't got your tickets, take your kid. We had a father call the Buzz today and said, I've never taken my kid to a Razorback game. And this is an opportunity that the tickets are cheaper, and you can find the tickets, and it'll be a great opportunity to expose your kids, or maybe somebody in your neighborhood, a kid who's never had a chance to go to the Razorback game. So thank you, War Memorial Stadium. Do want to thank Epic Health for their sponsorship. And guys, get over and get yourself checked. October's National Men's Prostate Month. So make sure you get yourself checked. $1,600 free screening. And do want to introduce our Epic Civil Servant of the Week. He is Dustin Free, the Fire Marshal at the North Little Rock Fire Department. Please welcome him. Dustin, please stand. Do want to thank Farm Bureau of Pulaski County, all their great agents, and appreciate them being on for a second year. Please give them the opportunity to bid on any of your business, whether it be home or residential, commercial, car, boat, you name it. Glad to have them on for the second year, Farm Bureau of Pulaski County. Wendy's, Nan Trammell, thank you so much for sponsoring the Dan Hampton and Willie Rofe Award. Really excited to, this is hard to believe, this is the third year we'll be giving that award out. Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings Law Firm, I want to thank Judy Henry for her belief and support in our club. We'll remind you, too, I've talked about the different things they have there at their law firm. They specialize in labor and employment issues as well. So if you've got workplace issues or lawsuit defenses, if you have a business, Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings is a place to go. They have excellent labor and employment attorneys, and we thank Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings. Judy, thank you so much for your team, and they're always great to have here each week. Also, Crane Automotive, do want to thank Larry Crane, Drew Dees, and all the folks. We got a full house from Crane today, and I appreciate you guys and your support of the Touchdown Club, both here in Northwest Arkansas. Over 800 Arkansans employed through the Crane family-owned dealership. So thank you to Crane Automotive and Larry Crane. The Democrat Gazette, Wally Hall, Amanda Copley, thanks so much. We'll introduce our Player of the Week, who couldn't be here today, Rex, but may have the record, the all-time record stat that we've ever had. Yeah, we'll announce that here in just a second. I do want to thank Simmons Bank, finally. They're our presenting sponsors. Great to have Adam Mitchell and Chris White here at the head table. And, guys, thank you so much for believing in the Touchdown Club again. We've got a great group of sponsors. Make sure, again, if you need a loan, if you want to open up a new account, go by and give these guys a chance to have your business. I'm proud to be a Simmons Bank customer. So let's give a round of applause to all of our great sponsors. Do want to thank the team here at Embassy Suites for doing such a great job for us each week. Matt Johnson with the Fidelity Local 6 with all of our TV, high-definition streaming. Thank you so much. You know, Brian, listen, we're not just going to stream you out in any way. We're streaming you out high definition across the world today. So we do it right here. Dwayne Duncan taking pictures as always. Make sure to go to Facebook and check out the pictures he takes every meeting. I think we've got some pictures of some of our speakers and members too, right, Dwayne, that need to be picked up out there before and after meetings. So make sure you do that. Do want to thank RJ Hawk, who handles our social media, Hawk Media Solutions. At LR Touchdown Club is our Twitter account. LRTouchdown.com is our website. RJ, thank you so much for the work you do. If you want to follow him on Twitter, please do that throughout the meeting and retweet away. Hashtag LRTDC. All right, do want to thank our amazing check-in ladies who do it. This is a great crowd. I'm telling you, this is jammed to the walls here. And thank our ladies who check everybody in. They do it for free. And let's give it up for our executive director. There she is in the back, Debbie Wyman, everybody. Our All-Arkansas Preps Player of the Week is from Nashville. He couldn't be here today. Darius Hopkins, 269 rushing yards, which is not bad, but he scored 8 touchdowns. 1 yard, 3 yard, 35 yard, 42 yard, 4 yard, 69 yard, and 11 yards. They won their 18th straight game. They had 747 total yards. So Nashville, obviously, a very talented group. We'll send him his plaque. And I wish you could have been here to hear Brian, but we'll make sure and get his plaque to him. And now, what should be a really crazy update. Let's get up for Rex Nelson, everybody.
Thank you, David, and good afternoon. It is time for the Weekend Update brought to you by Simmons Bank. Well, we'll start with the fact that Les Miles is history at LSU. So, you know, I went out and ate a little grass out of my front yard in his honor this morning. Notice, Brian, I said ate a little grass. I didn't smoke a little grass. Make sure that's real clear on this this high-definition feed that's going out around the world. You know, we did, Brian, have a governor over here who just happened to become a two-term president of the United States, you know, who famously said, I tried it, but I didn't inhale. So we don't inhale in Arkansas, just so you know. And so, who would be the new interim head coach of the Tigers? Well, none other than our former Little Rock Touchdown Club speaker, Crazy Ed Orgeron. I mean, boy, that's a blast from the past. It brings back the good old days, you know. So here we go. I hadn't got to do this in a long time. In his opening news conference, Coach Orgeron said, football. Opening news conference down in Baton Rouge. God, it's great to have Ed back. You know, the only thing better is if Phil Fulmer would come back and coach, and we could do that Fulmer face again for you old-timers. Or I guess there would be one thing better than that. If LSU would hire a guy that they supposedly once considered, you know, David, it could be special down there in Baton Rouge. I am tanned, I am rested, I'm ready. We're going to have those Tigers hang on to the rope. And there's going to be a national championship under construction in Baton Rouge. Oh, that'd be the only thing better. All right, let's get on with it. Not a good night for the Hogs in Arlington. Texas A&M 45, Arkansas 24. The only good thing about that is they're still Aggies, and they had to go back to College Station. So we got to come home to Arkansas. It was the 5th consecutive time for A&M to beat Arkansas, 6th consecutive time for Arkansas to lose an SEC opener. Kevin Sumlin now 5-0 as a head coach against the Hogs, and Brett Bielema 0-4 against the Aggies. A&M really took advantage of turnovers, scoring 17 points directly off of turnovers. Austin Allen finishing 28 of 42 passing, 371 yards. First time for these two teams to meet, both being ranked teams since 2011. And the Razorbacks still lead the overall series against the Aggies, 41-29 with 3 ties. Teams are 3-3 in games played at AT&T Stadium. Meanwhile, talk about upsets. How about UCA beating ASU? Any Bears fans in here? 28-23 in Jonesboro, 28,000 at that game as the Bears moved to 3-1 and the Red Wolves dropped to 0-4. First time for UCA to beat ASU, Jim, since 1937. First time for ASU to lose to an FCS team since 2001 when Nicholls State did the trick. ASU lost despite leading 469 to 382 in total yardage in that game. UAPB, David mentioned, they're 1-3 following a 32-28 loss to Jackson State. That was a team that had come into War Memorial Stadium 0-3, but Jackson State jumped out to a 15-0 lead, never trailed in that game. UAPB just 3-7 since 2004 in games played here in Little Rock. In the Great American Conference, Arkansas teams, most of them doing well. Henderson still 4-0. Harding still 4-0. Ouachita's 3-1. Southern Arkansas's 3-1. Arkansas Tech is 2-2. UAM is 1-3. Henderson in the top 10 nationally in Division II beat an 0-4 Southwestern Oklahoma team 45-17 following a 2.5-hour lightning delay that our man R.J. Hawk had to sit through. Reddies have a 23-game road winning streak. That's pretty impressive. 23 games against GAC teams on the road since the conference was formed in 2011, 24-0 in road games in conference play. Harding is awfully good too. They're in the top 25 in Division II. They go down to Monticello. They poured on the Boll Weevils 57-7, roll out to a 36-0 halftime lead in that game. They finished the game with 435 yards of offense. They only allow 131 for the Weevils. UAM had minus 25 rushing yards in that game, while the Bisons had 378 rushing yards. Ouachita, also a lightning delay that I had to sit through in western Oklahoma, but they defeated 1-3 northwestern Oklahoma 42-34, and we checked into our hotel at Oklahoma City at 3 a.m., David, after that game. Chris Oliver, great running back for Ouachita, rushed for 237 yards, 2 TDs in that game on 33 carries. Southern Arkansas holds off Arkansas Tech down in Monticello, down in Magnolia, 28-21. Mule Riders score with 7:34 left to break the tie and win the game. Jim, your Hendricks Warriors are 3-0, 42-14 over, get the Hendricks cheering crew, over Millsaps down in Jackson, Mississippi. Dayton win. Their good running back rushes for 152 yards for the Warriors. Line is 1-4 following a 34-21 loss to Bacone over in Muskogee, Oklahoma. Now, on to the SEC. Do you think maybe a few people won't mark Rick back at Georgia now? Oh, my goodness, what a whipping. Ole Miss 45, Georgia 14 in Oxford. That game, I know some of you were watching, it was 31-0 at halftime. It was 45-0 at one point. Chad Kelly throws for 282 yards as the Rebels break what had been a 10-game losing streak in that series. Georgia now 3-1 overall, 1-1 in the conference. Ole Miss probably the best 2-2 team in the country. They're 2-2. They are 1-1 now in conference play, with that loss being a close one to Alabama, of course. And the game that finally excuse me, cost Les Miles his job. Thanks. I tell you, it's a lot of talking when you have a long lightning delay. It was a long weekend. The game that finally cost Les Miles his job, Auburn 18, LSU 13. Gus Malzahn relinquished the play calling duties in that game. He was under fire. Some thought he might be gone if they lost that game. He also, did you notice he traded his visor for a cap at the suggestion of his daughter? Auburn wins without scoring a touchdown. Tigers kick 6 field goals, and the officials rule, of course, what would have been LSU's winning touchdown pass on the last game. The snap came after the clock had expired. So both those teams now 2-2 overall, 1-1 in the conference. Tennessee rolls to 4-0, 38-28 over 3-1 Florida. Tennessee erases a 21-0 deficit to end what had been an 11-game losing streak in that series, including 1-point losses to Florida the 2 previous years. Tennessee scores 38 consecutive points. That game just totally turned around. Kentucky's 2-2. They're 1-1 in the conference. South Carolina off to a rough start under Will Muschamp. They're 2-2, but 1-2 in the conference. 17-10 Kentucky in Lexington. I was surprised by this. This was Kentucky's third consecutive victory over the Gamecocks. I did not realize that until doing my research yesterday. I didn't think anybody lost to Kentucky 3 straight times, but South Carolina has somehow managed to do it. Alabama 4-0, 48-0 over Kent State. That could have been 96-0, but Kent State is Nick Saban's alma mater, so he was taking it easy on the old alma mater. Mississippi State 2-2 following a 47-35 victory at 1-3 UMass. Missouri 2-2, 79-0 over Delaware State. Previous school record for points scored was 69 against Western Illinois in 2011. Get this, the score of that game, you talk about some one-sided games now when they play these FCS schools. The score of that game was 58-0 at halftime, and they shortened the third and fourth quarters to 10 minutes each. Vanderbilt 2-2, 31-30 overtime victory over 2-2 Western Kentucky. That was played in Bowling Green. You don't see SEC teams going to Bowling Green very often. Western Kentucky chose to go for 2 in the first overtime, but its pass was incomplete, and Vanderbilt hangs on and wins by 1. So this week, we've got Kentucky and Alabama, Louisiana Monroe at Auburn, Florida at Vanderbilt, Tennessee at Georgia, Missouri at LSU, Memphis at Ole Miss, Texas A&M at South Carolina, and of course Alcorn State right here at War Memorial Stadium in Little Rock against Arkansas. Also in the state, Henderson at Arkansas Tech, Ouachita at Harding, Southern Nazarene at Southern Arkansas, Oklahoma Baptist at UAM, Center College at Hendrix, Southwest Assemblies of God at Lyon. So games in Little Rock, Russellville, Searcy, Magnolia, Monticello, Conway, and Batesville. That's 7 different cities. No excuse. Get out and see a college football game on Saturday. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks, Rex. Good job. All right, we're going to have Jim Rasco come up and introduce Brian. And Brian has decided he wants to do sort of back-and-forth interview like I did with Jeff Long. I apologize, the room is so full, so some of you may have to watch the screen. But for some reason, Rex, I don't know, is it just me? It seems like there are more women here today. I don't know what the deal is. How am I supposed to take that? How am I supposed to take what am I, a chopped liver up here every week? What's the deal? Come on. But Brian, we're looking forward to having you up here. You're getting ready to get an amazing introduction by the one and only Jim Rasco, everybody. Come on, Jim.
Thank you, David. Man, it's tough for an old CPA to follow this energetic Rex Nelson, I tell you. We're going to get back to some detail, too. All right, today's guest speaker was born in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and played his high school football at MacArthur High in Irving, Texas from 1980 through 1982. Though his team won only 2 games during his senior year, his ability was very evident as I researched his 1982 season. He was playing middle linebacker, tight end, and handling the punting for his team. On September the 18th, he scored his team's only touchdown. On October the 8th, he had 11 tackles and caught 2 passes. A week later, he had 22 tackles and recovered a fumble. The following week, he had a 72-yard touchdown reception. So at the end of the season, he was named All-District Tight End on offense and voted the Defensive Player of the Year as a linebacker. That resulted in him being considered one of the top linebackers in the state. The Dallas Morning News reported that he planned visits to LSU, Texas A&M, SMU, Baylor, and Oklahoma, and he was leaning towards the Aggies. That was in January. However, after visiting Oklahoma, he committed to the Sooners, stating that he liked the attitude at Oklahoma. He was quoted in the Dallas Morning News as saying, "At the other schools I talked to, they were worried about winning conference titles. At Oklahoma, they're worried about winning national titles." After redshirting during the 1983 season, he immediately moved in the starting lineup for the 1984 season. And all of you probably remember that 3 Arkansans were starting on offense for the Sooners that year. Keith Jackson, a freshman tight end from Little Rock Parkview, Mark Hudson, a freshman Fort Smith at right tackle, and Danny Bradley, a senior from Pine Bluff at quarterback. But I don't think the offense and the defense spoke to each other much. He didn't even know who they were. They wouldn't even let them practice against each other, I understand. They had to do the ones against the twos. Those guys didn't like each other. All right. Early in the 1984 season, Barry Switzer referred to by our speaker as saying, "I think he is as good a linebacker as we've ever had at OU, and he's only a freshman." On October 13, 1984, number 1 Oklahoma and number 2 Texas battled to a 15-15 tie in Dallas. Our speaker had 12 tackles and a 4th down stop on the 1-yard line. Then on October the 27th, Bradley was injured during the game, and freshman Troy Aikman replaced him at quarterback. But Aikman wasn't really ready to play, and Kansas upset the Sooners 28-11. Then on November the 17th, the Sooners traveled to Lincoln to take on number 1 team in the nation, Nebraska. Nebraska had won 27 consecutive Big 8 conference games, and this game would determine the host team for the Orange Bowl. Bradley was back at quarterback, and the Sooners whipped Nebraska 17-7. Our speaker had 19 tackles and was named Big 8 Player of the Week. In December, defensive player that season, and he was an academic All-American. He graduated in the spring of 1987 and joined the Seattle Seahawks. He started every one of the 24 games he was able to play in with the Seahawks, but shoulder injuries forced him to retire during his 3rd NFL season. Now back to his college career. College Football News ranked him number 30 on its list of the 100 greatest football players of all time. Sports Illustrated named him as one of the linebackers on the All-Century team. And most importantly, he's been inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. Please welcome Oklahoma Sooner number 44, Brian Bosworth.
Rex, can you get that mic on there?
Okay.
All right, so hopefully all you guys over here to the left, if we're not at a great angle, we can see on the screen. It's great that we have such a big crowd. Matt, we may need your assistance.
We got a green light.
I brought on the big wheel there. He can't get it.
1, 2.
There we go. There we go.
There we go.
All right, Brian, I sort of tipped off Brian who he was with up here on the head stage, that while he may have used to be called the Boz, that I was the Baz. And so I just got to get this thing started off in the right way. Now Brian, Matt, if you could show a picture real quick. This was Brian back in, he really had cool hair. Yeah, listen, listen. Let's just look at that. Cool hair, love it. Listen, we were playing at the same time. Love the headband, love the neck roll, and so I didn't have that. I didn't have the movie star career. I didn't have the pro career. But there's one thing that I had that you did not have. Take a look, and that is a 1980s mustache, my friend. Show me the next one, Matt. Let me see. You never did go the mustache route, but see, I went neck roll. See there? Look at there. Boom. So I didn't have the hair like you, but I had the mustache. You know, Burt Reynolds and Tom Selleck were big back in those days. So get those things off, Matt. Well, welcome to Little Rock, man. I know that the last time, you you spent time here with Stone Cold, but you said that you'd actually been here since then.
Yeah, I came in here about 6 months, 9 months ago to a men's retreat. I couldn't tell you where it was because out in the woods. I stayed in a log cabin, but it was a wonderful retreat because it was all men and they brought their sons, and it just a wonderful event that I got a chance to share my testimony, my journey, where I'd come from and where I currently was. And anytime I get an opportunity to do that, especially when I can get the relationship part of the father and the son or the father and the daughter together, and they can start to repair or just recognize and reflect on where they're at and how important those moments really are, especially when the kids are young, to teach them what the responsibility of being a parent really is.
You know, that's exactly why I think he's intriguing today. That's not what maybe you expected to hear, that Brian Bosworth is now speaking at Christian camps, Christian organizations. And I think the 30 for 30 certainly sort of brought that to light, that you'd have some changes in your life. And we're going to get into that real quick, too. But I wanted to ask, since we talked about being here in Little Rock, what do you remember about being here shooting that Stone Cold movie in 1990? I know you'd already shot in Louisiana, I think, but do you have any memories of being here in 91?
Yeah, there were two very specific memories. I remember we shot a scene that didn't make the film. It was a scene where Ice, I don't know how many people remember the movie, but Ice follows me home, and I blow my cover, and he sees me at my home. And the stunt was supposed to be where, as I open the front door and say goodbye to my wife and my little girl, Ice is sitting on the street, and he's got a machine gun, and he peppers the front door. Well, the guy that was the pyrotechnics guy, they come out for lunch, and they have it all set up, and they make the shot go off, and as you go pow 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 pow, and the director goes, wait a minute, he's got a machine gun. I don't think he's going to have that kind of accuracy. I want the door to explode, and I want the bullets going everywhere. Right. So they reset the scene, and I get back, ready to do it, and then all of a sudden I see all the cameras. They've got plexiglass in front of him, and I go, is there something I should know? No, you just do the same thing that you did before, which I was just supposed to slam the door and then turn and dive, and I did that. And I remember the pyrotechnics guy, who was a little crazy. He was lighting the fuse and he was laughing at the same time, and he goes, they're gonna like this one. And the owner of the house, it was a historic house. The owner of the house was standing out in the street, and the director said action, and I turned and slammed the door, which triggered the gunfire and the explosion. And I remember jumping, and I just felt this concussion going through me, and I just heard this giant explosion. And all of the windows upstairs and downstairs shattered. The front porch fell. And I opened the door and had to run out. I remember the doorknob hit me in the arm so hard that I had a big bruise on it, and I had to run to the motorcycle and take off. That was into the scene. And I came back, and I saw the owner of the house standing in the middle of the street crying. And I go, what are you crying? He said, look, my house, the front porch is down, every window is broken. And the UPM is going, okay, it's a wrap, we're out of here, let's go. And I don't think they ever rebuilt that old boy's house. So I apologize if that old boy didn't get his house rebuilt. And then we got to burn we burned the Capitol, and that was interesting because
was it Bill McEwen, the Secretary of State, was Clinton? No, Clinton went around by then. Who was it? 90.
I think he was the governor.
Was he still there? He was still there. That's just before he left. That's right.
I don't know who gave permission, but I don't think they talked to each other, because the first day we showed up, we rode those motorcycles straight up those marble stairs, and everybody looked out and they go, no, that's not going to happen. A little bit of an argument between the insurance companies, and then we figured out we could shoot those scenes on the weekend when nobody was there, but they didn't tell them that we were going to singe the entire side of the building and the dome. And then again, it was like, okay, we got it in the can, okay, it's a wrap, but we're out of here. here.
You know, and I actually like that film, Stone Cold. I think it was a great guy flick. But going back real quick, watching that 30 for 30, how many, just out of curiosity, has seen the 30 for 30 on Brian that's been out? Yeah,
Wow.
it's
Thank
amazing.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you
and I
very
even
much.
told Brian, you know, we have a lot of great speakers that come here, but I said that, you know, he's created a lot of buzz. A lot of you guys are here, excited to hear him, and you seem maybe a little surprised that that's still out there, or you're not surprised that people really want to hear your story and hear about you based on maybe what they think they know of you, or maybe the 30 for 30.
I think it's that. I think it's the remembering of the Boz and the young brash, full of himself, all about me, player at Oklahoma. And the transformation, and it's kind of like where I was and then where I am. By the grace of God, I found myself again on March 3rd, 2013, because I decided that I couldn't take another step forward in this human form, and I needed God's help. I needed Jesus Christ to lead my life. So in order to do that, I had to go through this journey. And, everybody's journey is different, but it's very unique in the fact that it all ends the same. It all ends with us asking for Jesus Christ to come in our hearts and to save us and to guide us and to give us the instructions that we need, and for us to stop fighting ourselves and be better people.
One of the things in the
Thank you.
I thought one of the really interesting pieces, the angles they took in the 30 for 30 is a relationship with your dad. And your dad was a good-looking guy, looks a lot like you, and tough guy. But it sounded like there were a lot of tensions. Talk about the relationship you had with your dad. It sounded, very unique and intense, and not always the best.
I don't think it was unlike a lot of relationships that men had during that time frame raising their kids. And I don't blame my father. I forgive my father, wholeheartedly, because I understand my father was given a set of tools by his father. And his father wasn't really even around, so my father had to find the tools that he had in his toolbox. And then it was his responsibility then to pass those tools on. And that's where he failed. And I recognize that he failed, but I can't fault him. That's not my part to judge him on that, but it was my responsibility as a father to recognize that. And it took some time and some courage for me to understand he did the best he could, and I loved him for what he was, but he failed in providing me the tools I needed to be confident and to feel like I was loved, and to what I was doing was okay, and the things that I would sacrifice, I was doing because I wanted his love. I wanted his encouragement. I just wanted him to acknowledge me as a son and not as a star athlete or a star player, or that he could be proud of me because I was all the things that I was talked about. And that's not who defines our children. Our children's not defined by the titles that they are given, but it's defined by the character that they have inside their soul. But they can't have that character in the soul if you, the father, you, the mother, aren't teaching them that. And you can't teach them that if you don't act it and walk it and talk it at the same time, because kids get that. They smell BS. They understand when you say one thing and do another. And they expect us to model the behavior that we want them to. But, I saw what my father was, and I started to model that same behavior. And when I saw my father pass away in that hospital room, and I saw that last breath when he turned from rose to gray, he was mad that I was in the room with him. He was angry at God for taking his life. He was angry at God for all the things that had gone wrong in his life. And I remember, I have to break this chain because I'm going down the same road that he paved for me. And the only way I was going to be able to do that was to look deep into the closet and find the things that I were most afraid of. Confront those things and don't be afraid to share them. And I had to share them with my son and my daughters. I had to get them out. And the only way you can do that is through communication. You got to be truthful and transparent. And you can be honest. And it's okay if you're vulnerable, but if you don't get it out, then your son and your daughter, they won't get it. They're going to walk through life thinking they have it, but they're just going to miss the most important parts. And I think that's the thing that we have as parents, the responsibility to find the tools that you don't have in your toolbox that your kids need. Go find them, because that's the responsibility of being a parent.
Well said. You were a highly recruited kid coming out of high school. Could have gone a lot of different places, but you didn't have the greatest relationship with your dad, and here comes Barry Switzer. Talk about your memory of being around Coach Switzer early on when he was recruiting you. What impressed you about him, and why you decided to follow him to go to Oklahoma?
The most important thing that Barry said to me when I went to the recruiting trip, and we all go into the recruiting trip. You spend a couple of days with the players that show you around the campus. They try to show you around a good time, and then you have that moment with the head coach, and you walk in the last day of your trip. And I just frankly asked him straight up, because I felt like coming from a 2-8 team, and he could have had any linebacker in the country. And I asked him, why do you want me? I mean, you can have anybody. You can have any All-American from any state. And he goes, I don't understand why you don't believe in yourself. Brian, if I believe in you, there's something inside you don't know that exists. But I promise you, if you come here, we will find it. We will find it together. And the reason we're going to find it together is because I want you to be part of my family. And that's what I didn't have at home. Even though my parents were there and my sisters were there, I didn't have a family. And to this day, I still don't have a family. I have a broken family. But I refuse to let my broken family exist, because I know that as a father and the man of the family now, that it's my responsibility to pick up my broken-ass family tree and carry it forward to another place and plant it and root it in character and judgment and honesty and Christianity and the love of Jesus and all the things that are good and right, and not about greed and not about me and not about the things that people you got to have, you got to accomplish things, you got to acquire things. That you can't take it with you. But what you can do is you can plant a seed, and that planting that seed of the goodness that we have inside each other, the way we treat each other, that's what God wants us to do.
Well, it's amazing, Brian, hearing you now versus what we saw back then, and so if you were listening to you now, the young you, what do you think the response would have been?
Oh, I thought I'd be on drugs, man. Actually, my pastor, when I got saved, on the day I got saved, he said, Brian, do you think it's a coincidence that you're in Chickasha, Oklahoma, screening a Christian movie in front of my Baptist parish? And I said, I don't know how to answer that. Well, you think it's an accident? I don't know. It's my third day. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm doing. You asked me to come. You asked me to speak in front of your parish. I warned you that it probably wasn't a good idea, but I went in and spoke in front of him anyway, and I spewed out all my anger about what was going on in my life. And he came up to me afterwards and he said, I've been doing it for 38 years, and I've never had anybody come into my church and speak to my people the way you did today. And I apologized. But I told you, I warned you, don't invite me. You don't want to hear it. And then he goes, no, you don't understand. I'm saying that I've never seen a man so lost, but so desperately wanting to be found. And that's what started the earthquake around my heart. He asked me if it was a coincidence. He asked me if an accident, and it wasn't. It was providential. God wanted me at that place in that time doing what I was doing because I was following the instructions that he was giving me for the first time, instead of me following my instructions because I'd messed it up from that point forward. And from that point now to where I'm at now, all of a sudden, the mountain of blessings are abundant. And I can't climb them, but I can share them. And that's the most important thing about the difference between the Boz in the past and Brian Bosworth in the future.
Looking back at those years when you were at Oklahoma, I mean, two-time All-American, only two-time Butkus Award winner ever. You're getting national attention, and you were very smart. I don't know if your marketing mind was that you did it by accident or you just were wise in doing that. Looking back during those times, what do you recall? Do you recall that this was a plan? Brian Bosworth is smart enough. I'm a good enough football player that if I do well and I market myself where I can make a lot of money and have a great future? Or was it something it just happened and that's what it was? It was a roller coaster.
No, it just happened. We were just having fun with it. It all organically just happened. and it happened because that's the way God wanted it to happen. I kind of use an acronym when I talk to young people. I use the word path. I was on his path, and it wasn't that I didn't know God as a young man. I remember praying when I was 13 years old, when I was a hellion, and I had a coach in junior high school. That first time that you're being handed over from, playing in Little League to now you're playing for the junior high, and then now another coach is going to be responsible for you. That coach came to me in 7th grade, and he told me, Brian, I understand you're a great athlete. I've read the papers and I hear all the stories, but I don't want you on my team. I'm not going to invite you to play at Sam Houston Junior High School. And I was like scared. Why can't I play? Because you're not the kind of guy that we want. You're a disruptor. You're constant. I was in the principal's office daily, getting whipped. I mean, with the oak paddle. I don't know. They don't do that anymore. They should, but I was in there daily getting whipped, and I was constantly in trouble with the teachers and getting C's and B's instead of A's and B's, and I was just I was that problem kid. And I didn't know why, but that coach came to me and said, you're not going to be able to play. And I went home that night, and I prayed for the first time, and I asked, please help. I don't know what's going on inside me, but help me fix myself. I can't lose this. I don't want to lose this. And I went and asked the coach for a second chance, and from that moment forward, I changed my life. I was teacher's pet, straight A student, honor roll, did all the things I was supposed to. And that started the path. I had patience, and I was passionate, and I pursued it, and I had a great attitude. I accepted it. I trusted it. It was the truth I was doing. And during the beginning years, I had honor and humility because I was scared to lose it. And then somewhere along the path, when I got to Oklahoma, I had some great success, and success breeds greed. It's just a human nature. And then all of a sudden, once you have greed and all the great successes, then you're easy to push God away and say, I've got it. I don't need you anymore because I've done it on my own. And that's what happened. When the boss became more than Brian, and I filled myself up with me and less of him, he took it away. And understand that path, I deviated from his path, and the consequences was he took away the gift that he gave me. And that path is the decisions that we make each and every day.
What was, if you're looking back of that era of your life, what was the high point and what was the low point?
There were so many high points because they were all dream come trues. Being able to play for the University of Oklahoma. Not just be a teammate or just be a guy on the field, but just be a significant player, a guy that changed the course of where we were. Because we came and the team had 3 consecutive 8-4 seasons, and I'd never really won a conference championship or a district championship or really any of those things. So I really wanted to be a winner, but I wanted to do that at Oklahoma and be significant. So I think probably the first significant achievement was beating Texas that second year. The first one when we,
They like that here. We like beating Texas. We like when others beat Texas.
Well, I felt like we got robbed in the 15-15 tie. I mean, I was mad, and of course, I was dumb during those days. I just, a reporter asked me a question, and I would just answer it. I didn't know you had to be politically correct and kind of salve over it and just kind of give the football answer. When the guy asked me, hey, how do you feel about Texas? You're a Texas boy. And I said, no, I'm an Oklahoma boy. I'm an Oklahoma boy. I was held hostage in Texas. I just came home. You were recruited by Fred Akers in Texas. You could have played there. I said, no, I don't like Texas. Burnt orange makes me want to puke. I can't stand them. Are you kidding me? But there was a genesis to that story. My girlfriend, who was my high school girlfriend, had just broken up with me at the beginning of that season. Came out of nowhere, and she told me, "Hey, I'm breaking up with you. Oh, and by the way, I just got engaged to a guy named Duke from the University of Texas." That started the feud right there. So it was all accidental. I just went over and reacted to a question of the reporter, and it was spewing inside me. Are you kidding me? We're playing the University of Texas. They were number 1. We were number 3 at the time. I can't wait to get on a field and ride a longhorn into the dirt, you know. And then we come up with a 15-15 tie. So that just fueled the fire for me to, you know, to get that monkey off my back, because I had to live, you know, in Texas and hear that, you know, Texas was always dominating Oklahoma. So that was one of the big ones. And then obviously the national championship was the team goal, and it was the thing that was the most important for us as players to accomplish, because it's so hard to win a national championship and put that number up on the scoreboard.
You had some great players on that team. Anybody stand out to you that was either on that team, or maybe some of the players you played against in the era that you look back and say, man, those were some great players? Of course, Keith Jackson, All-American, great tight end. Casillas was a great player as well. You know, Aikman, obviously, Jamel Holloway. Just some of the names that really stand out to you.
Yeah, no question. Sterling Shepard. I mean, you know, his father played during that time, Derek Shepard, and he was one of those kids where you'd look and watch him. He ran flat-footed. You could hear him running from 50 yards away. Here comes Derek. He was slow as like molasses, but you know what? He would make the play. We had so many special players on the team, and I think that's what made us so unique, because we had so much talent across the board, both on offense and defense, in depth. We would rotate guys in and out. But we just, you know, the team chemistry, we loved each other. We didn't love the offense. The defense loved each other. The offense loved themselves. And it made for a great marriage, you know. But we went in it with a game plan, and our mission was to make Coach Switzer happy, and to prove to Coach Switzer that we belonged part of that tradition and part of that program, and we bought into understanding the ownership of being a Sooner was you got to lay a brick in, and to lay that brick, that brick's going to last forever, because you put your heart, your soul, the sweat and the tears and the blood went into it, all the two-a-days and all the extra work that Coach Switzer asked us to do. We did it, you know, without question, because we knew at the end of the day that there would be a reward for it, and that reward is not really the championship, but it's the family that we have, the bond that we have as brothers, as players. And you know what it's like when you're out there. It's the guys you look at in the huddle through your face mask, and we're at war with these other guys, but you know what? I love you, brother. Let's just get through this, you know. And that's there's nothing like football that inspires that in young men.
I'm a couple years older than you, but we both played in an era where steroids weren't really, you sort of don't ask, don't tell.
Sure.
And so I remember watching you. I think, man, that guy's an unbelievable. You were a great athlete even without steroids. On steroids, you were a Superman. I mean, you were the fastest guy on the field. I mean, I remember you were 240 and you could fly. And of course, you know, there's an Arkansas connection to you in that regard, because Arkansas, do you remember who it was who was unable to play in the Orange Bowl? Because Brian was on the Oklahoma side. Anybody know the name? David Dudley. Arkansas had a player suspended, and that, of course, led to the T-shirt incident. Yeah. And I know, looking at that 30 for 30, that was a thing you said, man, that was probably the thing you look back, and that probably hurts the most thing. What was I thinking? Talk about that whole era, about the steroid issue and that decision on the T-shirt. By the way, the T-shirt said NCAA National
Communists Against Athletes. Welcome to Russia.
Welcome to Russia. And of course, you wore the other sideline of the Orange Bowl.
I still have it.
He still has it. He showed it to his son, and I remember watching the game. Got a lot of attention. Yeah. But you knew almost immediately, either during the game or after the game, probably wasn't a good idea.
No, because it's all about me. It's all about me. It took away immediately everything good that had happened, building all of that relationship with Oklahoma, the school, my coaches, teammates, the fans, because of a selfish decision. And sometimes you don't understand the impact of your decision because you don't think it through. You think it's funny at the time. You think it's, it's not that big a deal. But it was. Every decision that I look back on that I made was a big deal. Every decision that I look going forward on is a big deal. And as long as I filtered that decision through my heart, then I knew I was going to make a mistake eventually. And that one came out across the United States. It was once I replaced myself with Jesus as my filter, and then now every decision I make, what would you want me to do? Give me the instructions that I need to make sure the decision I make now, going forward, whatever it is I'm making, is a decision that's based upon what your word is, not my thought. And it just breaks my heart that I burned that bridge at that time so unnecessarily, because it didn't matter. That game would have come and gone, and we'd have moved on, and it would have just been forgotten like the rest of the players. But I had to make a big deal about it because it was about me.
Also, in the 30 for 30, following up on that a few years later, you wrote the book.
Yeah, that didn't help either.
Yeah, and it was... What was amazing about that, Brian, was the anger that your teammates felt towards you. And I don't know if some of them have forgiven you yet. How do you deal with that in the whole process of, obviously why you did it, but then what do you do about that now for players who may not forgive you yet?
Well, I know I know the reasoning why all that happened, and I understand that, and I take ownership of it. And really what the decision comes down to is who do you surround yourself with? I mean, if you're a shepherd and you run around with wolves, that's great because you can guide those wolves. But if you're a young wolf or a young lamb and you decide that you want to run with the wolves, and eventually you're going to be a wolf. And that's what I ended up surrounding myself with. I had a lot of people around me at that time deciding that they wanted Boz to be bigger, they wanted Boz to be brighter, they wanted Boz to be louder, they wanted Boz to be a brand. And I just wanted to be a football player. I was an Oklahoma kid with a big dream to play for Oklahoma and have a great success. And then if I went to the next level, that'd be great. But I just wanted to be a football player. I didn't want to do all the other stuff that came with it. And had all these people around me producing the Boz. And that book was a production of the Boz that was done for me. It was like, wait a minute, I'm doing an autobiography. I'm like 22 years old. I haven't done anything yet. And I remember reading that first draft and, sat down with Rick Riley and we talked about candidly things that went on at the University of Oklahoma. And I'm sure it wasn't unlike things that were going on in other college campuses. But then I read his draft and it was like, whoa, man, you injected steroids all over this thing. You've embellished everything. I mean, it's great, it's funny, but they're not true. I mean, you're making something for entertainment. And I got embarrassed and I said, we can't do this first one. And it became a decision to, okay, we got to tame it down, but it still has to be entertaining. It still has to be that. And so, again, I have to take ownership, but what I try to tell young people now is know who is in your circle. Understand who you're running with and why you're running with them. Because the decisions you're making are based upon the decisions that they're guiding you for. So deep in your heart the right and wrong. You can look in the mirror, that moment of the decision, man, I really shouldn't be doing this. This is not the right thing. But I'm going to do it anyway because it feels fun. I'm going to do it anyway because everybody else is doing it. I don't want anybody else to think that I'm not cool. But if you do it, is it the right thing? Is your heart telling you that's the right way to go? And only you. And that personal reflection in the mirror, that relationship that you have with yourself, is really an extension of a relationship you have with him. He's telling you every day, all day long, exactly what you need to be doing. It's us that fight. We fight all day. I don't want to do it your way. I want to do it my way. My way's much more fun. But his way is the right way. And it may not be fun, but it's the right way because what you're doing is you're going to impact the next person. That next person, if you're the one that decides that you don't want to be the wolf anymore, you're going to stand up and take the staff. You know what? I'm going to be the shepherd now. And the rest of you can continue to run that direction, and that's fine. But I'm going to go this direction because it's the right way to go and it's the right thing to do. And you hope that you save one, two, you might save all of them. But at least you have the courage to stand up and say, I'm not going to go that direction again.
One more question, then we'll open up for a couple of questions. I've been around. I've been around great players. We've had some great speakers here. I've met U.S. presidents. But the thing that impresses me the most, because my dad did it, break the cycle, like you talked about, breaking the cycle with your kids. where your dad didn't. And watching that 30 for 30, you see Brian with the son Max going through the warehouse and your stuff, and it's like, I love the fact that now is that's what it's about, is doing for your kids what your dad didn't do. And so just talk about the dynamic of your three kids, where they're at, what they're doing, and how important it is for you to be the kind of dad maybe that your dad wasn't to you.
You know, it's an amazing transformation, because I remember being a father when the kids were young, and I just felt like I'm just another man in the house and we're just having fun, but I didn't feel like I was guiding them in any direction. We would have play times and we would do the fun things together, but I felt empty. I felt lost. I didn't feel like I was doing anything of value in their life. And then I got saved. And then all of a sudden my relationships became much more enriched, and my relationships with my children became much more deep, because I had something of value that I wanted to share with them, and yet they were willing to listen. They were willing to stop and change the dynamic, the narrative of our relationship. And to be able to do that when they're 16, 17, 19 years old, after they've already gone through their formative years, and they've already been tainted, and they're looking at their dad for the first time and go, "Dude, are you for real? What's up with that? Where is it? How am I supposed to do it?" I remember taking my son on the tour, and he didn't understand what had happened, and he was looking around, "Dad, what's up? Got the Bible and got all these verses, and what's going on here? What are you doing?" But he was interested, because we were able to have a conversation about it, because he saw what changes were happening in my life. But it's not the changes that were happening in my life, it was the things that were going to happen daily, my relationship and the follow through on that. And that's the most important thing I think has happened, is my relationship with my children. Chase, you know, she's my oldest, she's up in Boston right now. She just finished an internship. She created a job out of nothing in an internship where they were only going to keep her for a short period of time, and she's deepened her relationship with Jesus Christ, and she's found a place that she has a purpose for. My other daughter, Haley, who went to Oklahoma for one semester until she found out that there's no beach near Oklahoma. Even though she was a smart kid, she moved back to the University of San Francisco because she needed to be near the beach. But she's become closer to Jesus Christ now, because it's important to her. She sees that emotional attachment is now part of our family. We've started to heal our family, and that's the most important. And my son, most importantly, when he first moved to Austin, the first thing I did is I took him to church. He came in on a Saturday. I said, "Hey, we're going to go to church tomorrow if you don't mind." "Yeah, no problem." The pastor stood up and said, "We're going to pray for all the young men that are going on a retreat," and they were leaving that afternoon. My son had never been to Austin. He'd only been in California. He didn't have any friends, and he looked over at me and he said, "You know, maybe I should go on that." And I thought, "No way, you didn't come up with that idea on your own." But again, that's God's working on him. But he's working on him because my son saw that God had healed me. And I think once our children see that God has the ability to come into our lives at any point in time when we're broken and heal us, they're willing to listen to what God's word is.
All right, what's the toughest hit you ever put on anybody, and then what's the toughest you've ever been hit?
Same guy. Same guy. Alonzo Highsmith. Yeah. Alonzo Highsmith. He came to the University of Miami, came to play us, and he purposely, on a pass play, came out, and he was supposed to be, I thought, on a route, but he wasn't. And I did my pass drop, and I break on the ball, and all of a sudden I get ear-holed. And I'm falling down, and I'm trying to get up, and then I get ear-holed again, and I'm falling down, and the play's way over there. And I'm getting ear-holed for the third time. I get up and go, "Dude, what's up?" He goes, "I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Alonzo Highsmith." So then I got a chance to play against him again in the playoff game my rookie year against Houston, and it was a fourth down play, 4th and 3. It's the very end of the game, and I just had my jersey ripped off, and the referees had told me I had to leave because my jersey was ripped in half. I said, "Well, how do you think it got like that? You think I ripped it myself? You think I'm Superman? They're holding. How about throwing a flag?" I had to go put on number 66, and I run back in for the 4th down play, and we'd already knocked Mike Rozier out with a concussion, and they pitched the ball to Alonzo Highsmith for a sweep, and it's just like the party of the Red Sea. It's like, "Oh, dude, here it comes, man." Payback's going to be fun. And we came around the corner, I scraped, and he saw me, I saw it, like two bulls came out at each other, and we hit each other so hard, it's like two marbles. We hit, and we just bounced off each other, we went in different directions, but we got up, winked at each other, and we're great friends now. We hated each other on the football field, but I highly respect what he did.
Well, Bo Jackson, I did have 15 tackles against Bo in the Liberty Bowl. I just want to say. But I have to say, I want to come to your defense, Brian, in that you get so much grief about that one play, and you're right. Nobody could tackle Bo Jackson at that angle. It wasn't a straight-up tackle. Do you get tired of people going, Bo Jackson ran you over? I guess I'm defending you as an old linebacker. It was just at an angle. It would have been tough to make that stop.
Well, first of all, it wasn't my responsibility. I didn't have play side. I had cutback, so that's why my head's on the backside. I was a backside linebacker, and my front side linebacker, just on his 91-yard touchdown, decided he wanted to, blitz the B gap, and that's why there's nobody in that gap as he's running around the corner and he's running through our end zone and out our tunnel. And I got in behind him. I thought, man, this guy.
You stay with it. You actually stayed step for step for a few minutes, a few seconds.
Yeah, because I saw Chuck Knox standing there on about the 45-yard line. I said, I got to sprint past the head coach. If I don't sprint past the head coach, he's gonna find me. But there's no way I was going to catch him. And then we come up to that goal line, and I thought, well, you know what? I don't know if he's going to cut back, if he's going to go to the coin, go to the corner. I should have front side help. My linebacker should be over there. I should have strong safety, and I've got cutback. So somebody's going to help me, and nobody helped me. And he helped himself to, I think that was his third touchdown on his birthday.
And you guys are good friends now. I know you went and rode his bicycle deal that he raises money for his charity. Yeah.
I did, yeah. No, he's a great guy. And that's the thing about the brotherhood of being football players. We can agree to disagree for 60 minutes and hate each other for 60 minutes and then come back afterwards and be great friends because we know the sacrifices we're making. We're pounding our bodies against each other. And we're doing it because of pride, and we're doing it because of the loyalty to the school and the colors we're wearing or the number that we have on our chest or whatever. But at the end of the day, we're all cut from the same cloth. We're all athletes. It's the same thing with God's people. We're all, whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're Asian, whether you're Muslim, whether you're a Christian, whether you're not a Christian, it doesn't matter. We're all God's people, and we all have to treat God's people the same way in Jesus' way. That's love each other. I don't know why we can't do that. Just love each other.
How about edit on that? Let's give it up for Brian Bosworth, everybody. Great job. That's outstanding. Great job, buddy.
Thanks, brother.
That's awesome. All right. Casey Dick and Tyler Wilson next week. We'll see you next Monday. Thanks for being here. All of you who are